Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another important tropical weather outlook and discussion for Thursday, August the 8th, 2024. Taking a look at the Atlantic right now and the Caribbean, including the Gulf of Mexico. Not much activity to speak of, which is good news, but we are indeed watching this tropical wave that is located to the south and the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, which are located right over here. And so all of this mess is going to eventually congeal up somewhere over here in the northeastern Caribbean into the southwestern Atlantic, where we're expecting some significant tropical development with this tropical wave once it gets organized enough. There is Tropical Storm Debbie, barely a tropical storm anymore, as this continues to move off towards the north and then towards the northeast, bringing significant flooding, some cars completely buried underwater, rivers overflowing. It's just a messy, messy world down there in the Carolinas. And again, all my thoughts and prayers go out to all of those people that are dealing with the flooding. Because again, we're seeing, this is Thursday and it's still sitting over here, barely moving, and it's causing a lot of problems. Now, looking at the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, this just got released right now. There is a medium chance, a 40% chance over the next 7 days that this tropical wave will develop into a tropical depression or storm as it moves into the northeastern Caribbean, into the southwestern Atlantic. And anybody living on these islands really needs to monitor the progress of the system, as heavy rainfall, strong winds, and high surf are also expected. Quickly looking at Tropical Storm Debbie, winds are down to 40 miles an hour with the pressure of 997 millibars. This is still bringing quite a bit of heavy rainfall and flooding to the Carolinas, including for Virginia. So now to the meat and important information of this tropical weather outlook and discussion is looking at our 4 global computer models. We're first going to be looking at our European model. Second, we're going to be looking at the GFS model. Third, the Canadian model. And then fourth, the ICON model, because we really need to see where this tropical wave is going to go, where it's going to develop, and who is going to possibly get impacted here. And by the way, a little spoiler alert, this could end up becoming a hurricane, if not even a major hurricane. This has some high potential at doing something pretty significant. So that's why we are tackling this video with all 4 global computer models, which is really important. So the first one that we're looking at here is a European model, and this is a 3-plot system. So you can see the vorticity, all that color, that orange red indicates how much spin there is in the atmosphere. So the more spin you get, well, you end up with something like Debbie right there with the tropical storm. And then your thicknesses right here in black indicate where our ridges are. So we can see our thickness lines indicating where our ridge is. And then these little wind barbs indicate which way the wind is coming from and how strong it is. So you can see, you can kind of make an arrow around this ridge, and you can see this strong Bermuda Azores high that is in place, helping to steer these waves off of Africa, generally westward for the time being. So now let's go into the next 24 hours. By the way, this was rendered last night. There's some issues with the ongoing European model this late morning, early afternoon. So I do apologize by that. And of course, I'm using Tropical Tidbits, and so their model is not out for the public yet. So I'm sorry if we have to show you the 0Z, but it's not much different than what the future model will probably show, right? So when we go into the next couple of days, here is our tropical wave that we are monitoring. This is the big one. This is the one that everyone is concerned about, and I don't blame you. I really don't, because wait until you see the ensembles here in a little bit. Here comes another tropical wave coming off of Africa. So going forward now, by the time we go into day 5, this is for Monday, August the 12th, 2024. And look at that tropical wave getting its act together, the vorticity strengthening on it a little bit. And then guess what? Here's another one, and guess what? Here's another one coming off of Africa. It's going to just be this trio, this barrage, this parade of tropical waves We saw this coming. The favorability is there, and I'm really concerned about what this means later on, not just within the next 5 to 10 days, but what about very late August into September? Who knows what, right? So now, when we go into, say, Tuesday, this is for August the 13th, you can see there is our tropical wave really getting its act together. And look at this. Once this gets past the Dominican Republic into, say, the Turks and Caicos Islands, eventually into the Bahamas, look at how this really strengthens. This is not a good situation. You can see the vorticity plot there. This is what we look for on this map. And then guess what? Here's that next tropical wave that we're going to have to watch. This could also become something too. And then here comes another one. I mean, they're just lining up out there. I'm telling you folks, just like a parade. Go think about going to Pasadena on January 1st and watching the Rose Parade. And you see your best float. Sometimes it's the best float too. The leader of the pack is going to be this first wave, and it's just all the parade is going to go, the tropical wave parade. And then look at, by the end of the model run, you can see here, there is that wave that could develop. But look at this right here. Definitely a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane at this point. Now, some of you are going to leave comments, and I do understand this on my video, that's saying, oh, this is going to be a fish storm. It's going to be a fish storm, David. It's not going to hit the United States. For one, this tropical wave has not even developed yet. So I want to just make that clear with you all. I mean, if we go back and look right now at where it's at, I mean, technically the wave is over here. It's all jumbled up within this larger wave envelope. And until, again, things develop, we don't know where it's going to go. So I want to make it clear for a lot of you that are watching this video that, oh, it's going to stay offshore, David. There's been trends and consistency. We don't know yet. This is awfully close to Florida. This is close to the Carolinas, that it is not safe to say that this is going to be a fish storm. And speaking of that, it wouldn't be a fish storm if it makes landfall on some of these islands like the Turks and Caicos or the Bahamas anyway. So yeah, fish storm doesn't always mean good news, because this could bring a lot of surf to the coast of Florida, tall surf. So keep that in mind too. It's not just, oh, it's going to be a fish storm. We're not going to get impacted, David. All right. You might. We shall see. It's too far out. This is a 10-day forecast. So now what about the GFS model? GFS going a little bit hypey, a little bit concerning here. And as we go forward here, let me refresh this. You can see there is, again, that tropical wave like we just mentioned that is over the central main development region. This goes into the northeastern Caribbean, doesn't develop much, but look at how consistent the Euro and the GFS model are. Consistency is always important at the end of the day, and we can see right here developing into a tropical storm perhaps in about 174 hours out. So there is consistency here, and then eventually this could become a very compact, intense tropical storm or a hurricane moving up the eastern seaboard, getting really close, not too close, but it's there, close to the northeastern coast of New England, and then out to sea it goes, maybe impacting Newfoundland and the Labrador area in eastern Canada before it gets absorbed. And then there's going to be more activity. And what I mean by that is if we look at the 06Z run really quickly on the GFS, again, I don't want to freak you all out and cause fear-mongering, but you can see this is what the 06Z showed. And watch this tropical wave right here. This could develop into something also. So we're going to have to see if the GFS trends back on that scenario, because this is the 06Z run, and this is not the current run that we just got from the global forecasting system. And then guess what? Here's another tropical wave that is coming off of Africa. So, I mean, the ball is going to get rolling, folks. Things are going to get really busy out there, and we have to be ready for this. I've warned you far enough out into the future that we saw this coming, and voila, here it is, unfortunately. All right, so we'll see with what global models show in future runs on the first wave, and then, of course, on the second one. Now, what about the Canadian model? The Canadian model is darn right consistent and concerning. Also, no difference on that. Here is our tropical wave that develops a lot earlier. I mean, in 84 hours, this could end up being a tropical depression. And then eventually on the Canadian, in about 180 hours out, this could be a full-blown tropical storm or hurricane on the model. And then eventually maybe a powerful hurricane once it gets into the southwestern Atlantic. So every single global model, this is the third model run, or the third different model that I've shown you, indicating that this wave develops into a tropical storm or hurricane, adding a lot of validity and a lot of evidence to this video. So now another model that I wanted to show you is the icon model. Not many people use this. Some people even in the chat in the past says you should not use the icon model, David. I'm going to use whatever model I feel like that needs to be talked about in this video. So you can see here this tropical wave here developing in about 84 hours out, and then eventually moving into the Caribbean. Again, right where the Euro, the GFS have this, and then eventually developing into a powerful tropical storm or hurricane with, again, look at this, 2 more tropical waves, even a third one coming off of Africa. They're all lining up. Okay, this is not, I believe, if we get an E storm out of this, this is not going to be the last system we're going to have. And by the way, if you guys say I'm pre-naming things, there's enough consistency here to pre-name this system. I know we shouldn't. I know it's a bad look to me, but I really feel like we do, because I'm very, very almost certain this is going to become our next name storm, which will be Ernesto on our list of names. Now the question remains, what is the consistency on the European deterministic? How does that rank or relate to the ensemble forecast that we're looking at? Which again, the model is tweaked and ran 51 different times, giving a range of possible outcomes. That's what the ensemble here tells us. As a weather forecaster, you'll hear this from meteorologists that, oh, the ensembles are doing this, or they've trended this way, or they trended that way, because ensembles overbeat or override your deterministic runs, which deterministic, it's only one model and one run only, and you can see little switches, okay, suddenly went to the west, or it suddenly went, but the ensembles help to show us the possible outcomes. And so we can see that here in the next 5 days from weathernerds.org, we can see that we do have a tropical depression here, potentially with winds of 30 to 40 knots or so. Okay, it's probably not going to be, because it's going to be an open wave at this point, but just saying that a lot of the members are picking this up. But once we go into, say, about day 7, so 7 days from now, we can see that there is this clustering right over the Dominican Republic. And that's basically what the European deterministic run showed in this video, showing us where this is going to probably end up going. But also take note that most of these are tropical storm intensity. So could this become a tropical storm just before it hits the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico? We shall see. And besides, Puerto Rico's right here. I would not take your eyes off of this. Certainly, you are definitely in the area to watch for sure with tropical development. And then going out to 10 days, when I tell you all that this has a very high ceiling, I mean business. Because you can see here out to 10 days. Even so, this is 10 days out. We can kind of get an idea what this tropical wave might end up doing. And you can see here, a couple of members bring this into the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see the rest of the members bring this into the southwestern and western portion of the Atlantic. And look at some of these red tracks. See these reds here? Some of the pinks? That is hurricane intensity. Okay, so what this is telling me as a forecaster is that there is some increasing confidence, not completely, there's always that unlikelihood scenario that this could end up becoming a very high-end tropical storm with winds of 70 miles an hour or greater. Unlike Debbie, which had a more uncertainty to the intensity forecast, and it possibly only becoming or remaining a tropical storm, this has a much higher ceiling and much more significant potential of doing something very significant that we have not seen since Beryl at least. And I don't like hyping things up, but you can see here on the guidance giving us some consistency here. And it is also worth noting Bermuda is over here, and you can see this track guidance envelope here very spread out in 10 days. So if people are saying, oh, the deterministic model, David, is keeping this offshore, that's only one run and one model only. Please do not take that for granted. Do not, please, because that's how people don't get prepared. Look at your ensembles. They're going to help you out a little bit more because they're going to tell us the range of possible outcomes. Okay, now that we talked about that, if this does get into the Gulf, because there's a couple of members like we just showed you on the European ensemble forecast, the Gulf of Mexico is extremely, extremely warm as I have ever seen it in a few years at least. We can see all these purple colors up here off the coast of Louisiana, indicating sea surface temperatures around 90 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. That is concerning because if we do get a tropical wave or any type of disturbance that moves into the Gulf, it could pop off very quickly. We can see water temperatures have come down a little bit over portions of the northeastern Gulf, but still extremely warm, at least 87, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We're already up to 88 to 89 Fahrenheit in the western and northwestern Gulf of Mexico. In other words, the entire Gulf here is ready to go for whatever disturbance moves into this area. It could end really badly, perhaps, if the background state is able to be cooperative. Now, sea surface temperature anomalies definitely well above average throughout most of the Gulf, especially off the coast of New Orleans, Louisiana. Water temperatures are near average. They have come down a little bit, probably due or most likely due to Debbie helping to churn up some of that water. So that's good news, but that's going to recover extremely quickly. We have above average sea surface temperatures in the northwestern Caribbean and also for the Bay of Campeche. So in other words, the Gulf is just ready to go. It's waiting for a disturbance to move through it. And I'm telling you folks, if the background state cooperates, things are going to get ugly and intense very quickly. All right. So looking at the rest of the Atlantic here, we can see that sea surface temperatures are definitely warm. Exact numbers right now in the mid to upper 80s. Okay, we're in the mid 80s over here in the Caribbean, and we're in the upper 80s to lower 90s in the Gulf, like we just talked about. So these tropical waves, once they develop, they're going to be moving into this environment and doing something like this. Imagining when you have tropical waves doing this, there's a lot of warm water, there's a lot of oceanic heat content to work with, and these tropical waves are more than likely going to explode in size. We can see that. It's late August, we know what's coming, we've seen this for a while. So sea surface temperature anomalies here, definitely well above average, so not a problem with our next 2 or 3 tropical waves coming off of Africa. That is for sure. The Gulf ready to go, and I mean the entire Atlantic here, other than the northern area, is running superly warm above average. Okay, you can see some of these darker reds indicating well above average. Sea surface temperature anomalies, I mean on the order of 5 to 6 Celsius above normal. That's incredible to think about. And so any tropical wave coming off of Africa is going to acquire a lot of energy for tropical development. And speaking of that, I wanted to make it clear that we have, again, our La Nina that's developing in the Eastern Pacific. So with the very warm Atlantic superimposed on our very active MJO signal, which is the Madden-Julian Oscillation, which is our upward motion and sinking motion in parts of the world across the equator. So we're going to enter a very, very favorable MJO phase over Africa, superimposed on these very warm sea surface temperatures. That's why I am very concerned about some hyperactive activity coming your way over the Atlantic and even the Western Atlantic over the next 3 to even 4 weeks. Once this starts, I don't think it's going to stop. The parade continues. So now looking at the upper ocean heat content now over the Gulf. Now the reason why I'm showing you all this map and not the other one is because this the legend, I really want you all to pay attention to the legend. The darkest red, which is over here in the northwestern Caribbean, as well as even in the Gulf of Mexico, this loop current, I mean, come on, that is 200 units. 200 kilojoules per centimeter squared, which is extremely significant. Extremely. The upper ocean, some of the water anomalies down here, the 80-degree isotherm, in other words, in these red colors, extend almost 600 feet below the surface. So if you think about a Category 5 hurricane, it's not going to upwell any cold water over this region because there's so much heat content, so much latent heat being stored like a rubber band into these waters of the Caribbean. And so you could imagine if we get anything coming over this area, it's going to really utilize a lot of this. And I am concerned. I am worried about what the season holds ahead of us other than what we had with Beryl. Beryl was just one, and that happened early enough to where it really did not chug away at these upper ocean heat content numbers. Okay, so now looking at the entire Atlantic here, I mean, look at this. Lots of orange, lots of red, you name it. Extreme upper ocean heat content ready to go into the Caribbean and into the Gulf. And again, like I said, we get these tropical waves that kind of slide underneath the Dominican Republic. They kind of go like this. In other words, they kind of do like what Ian did. I'm very, very sure it's not going to end well. It really isn't. And we've been ready for this. We've been ready. Oh, one other thing that I almost forgot to discuss in this video is the chances of a tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane. And so we can see the Euro indicating a 60 to 70% chance that a tropical depression might exist in the northeastern Caribbean into the Dominican Republic. So this definitely has a high chance, folks. We're not sleeping on this one. Other than the last wave that had a very minuscule chance, this one has a much better shot. Looking at the probability of tropical storm-like winds with this wave, there is nearly a 40 to almost 50% chance over the Turks and Caicos, the Dominican Republic, and the Bahamas over the next 10 days. Let's not worry about Debbie because Debbie is already on shore, but we can see our next area right here indicating a fairly high chance for tropical storm-like winds. But guess what? This could become our hurricane as well. So looking at that, there is a 10 to 20% chance that some areas, even look at close to Florida here, that might see a Category 1 or greater hurricane in this area. And there's that little blue, that's a 20% chance. So yes, this has some potential, folks, of doing something significant, and we have to be ready. We really do. Just to review with what we talked about here, briefly talked about Debbie down to 40 miles an hour, possibly even an extratropical cyclone at this point as it moves off to the north and the northeast. We are really concerned. This whole area that I'm circled in yellow is going to be the area that is going to be moving into the Caribbean and into the Dominican Republic over the next 5 to 7 days. You all over here in the Dominican Republic need to be sure you are getting ready for this tropical wave. Lots of heavy rain, you bet. Lots of gusty winds as well. You need to be ready. All right. But otherwise, thank you all for tuning in to today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion. Please be sure you share this. Sharing is caring. On our last video yesterday, we got 350 shares. So thank you for those 350 people that did share this with their family and friends on social media. We need to share this even with more people, and also like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a comment in the section below. You guys are very awesome, and I will be back with you more tomorrow. We are going to do possibly a double header, not now, but in a couple of days on this tropical wave. This is really concerning me, and you all need to be concerned about it as well because the models tell us a lot. All right, anyways, see you back here tomorrow.